Hey, it's Heidi. Welcome home. I am so glad that you're here. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important questions we can ever answer. And that is, how do you forgive an addict or an alcoholic? Why are you here in this video today? Likely a couple different scenarios for you. Either you are ending or have ended a relationship with an addict or an alcoholic and you need to forgive so that you can move on, so that you don't keep repeating this pattern over and over again in the next relationships. You know that resentment is built up and you're going to likely carry that in. Or you're currently in a relationship with an addict or an alcoholic and maybe they've gotten their act together. Maybe they're in recovery and they're doing well, but you're still left stuck and struggling with the shrapnel that was left behind from the war that addiction is. It really is like that. It feels like complex post-traumatic stress disorder. You've been exposed to this abuse, psychological, financial, sometimes, certainly emotional. An abusive relationship is an addicted relationship. There's no doubt about it. And you absolutely need to heal. And for a lot of us, forgiveness is a part of that journey. Now, if you've been working with me or watched my videos for any length of time, you know I do have a unique position on forgiveness. For me, it's not about a spiritual bypass, right? Like, I'm just going to forgive. And I'm not trying to be funny. I really mean it, where we just say, Lord, forgive them, and we give it to God. But we're still left wounded psychologically and emotionally. We need to connect all the dots so that we can really heal and move on. I don't think forgiveness is really where it's at. I think making sense of it, understanding what happened so that you can wrap your head around it so that you don't repeat patterns anymore, you don't settle for that kind of behavior anymore, and that you can literally move on and be in peace no matter what's going on. And I'm going to give you that super simple formula today. I do believe that I have a strategy on how to forgive and move on. Actually, it's a 7-step strategy, and it's part of my program in LYFE School. And it's called the Rapid Detachment Method, and it is life-changing. I'm not going to teach you that today. If you want to learn more about that, you can always go over to lovecoachheidi.com and send me a message. But today, I'm just going to talk in general through a metaphor about forgiveness and how to forgive. And it's super simple, but again, it's not easy because it requires us to take a look at why we're still holding on to these resentments and what we get out of it and what our piece is. So forgiveness is very complex, right? So I'm not going to say that it's not. It's hard. That's why we're always struggling to do it, because it's really hard to do. So I'm going to simplify it for you today. Now, again, if you're new here, I just want to take a minute and say, welcome home. I'm Heidi. I'm an addiction professional, a Master Codependency Coach, and I focus on breaking toxic cycles of dysfunction, ending them one educated person at a time so that we can heal the planet. Eventually, my goal, and I know it sounds like so crazy and big, but it's to really end child abuse that happens through addiction, which is an abusive relationship. And if you are in a relationship with an addict or an alcoholic and you have children, or you haven't healed it, and you're going to have children and their children are going to have children, we're going to perpetuate this problem for eternity unless it takes a brave person like you to step up and interrupt the process. And that's why I'm so grateful that you're here, that you're watching these videos. Make sure you like and subscribe and keep coming back as you work to navigate your way through this treacherous, tremendously devastating problem that we face globally. I talk to people from all over the world every day, all different types of people all over the world, and addiction certainly doesn't discriminate. In fact, a lot of people are very surprised when it's in their family, thinking, how the hell did this happen? We have everything else. I don't get it, so I have lots of education and trainings and videos on that. But again, if you want the support to help implement this information, then go over to lovecoachheidi.com and send an application to consider coming into the program. All right, so let's get into it today. Now, the metaphor that I use for forgiving addiction is the metaphor of the hurricane. And I want to explain it to you and walk you through the 3 simple steps to forgive somebody for the harm that they have caused in addiction. And again, it's just extremely important that you do heal this damage, because if you don't, it's likely going to, like I said, continue to repeat and repeat throughout the course of generation after generation. So we want to be the cycle breaker. So it starts with us, right? The first thing is you have to understand what you are forgiving. What you are forgiving. Now, that's step 1. When I ask that question, you're tempted, and so are a lot of people that I work with, to give me the laundry list. Well, you want to rack your brain and think of all the things the addict or alcoholic has done within their addiction to devastate you and damage the family. And that could be the gamut, right? It could be keeping us up all hours of the night, so we're waiting to see if they've wrecked or they're coming home. It could be draining the bank account behind your back. It could be just creating anxiety and putting the whole house on edge constantly, walking on eggshells. Everybody's trying to, it could be just, you want to run through the list, right? Of the psychological, emotional, physical, financial damage that they have done. But actually, that's not what I'm asking you here, although that is extremely important. And you'll get to do that work, and you should do that work with a qualified professional, like in my program or somewhere else. But right now, I'm asking you, what are you forgiving? What are you forgiving? So let's detach from addict or alcoholic and put in a new perspective, because I'm going to attempt to help you have such a radical perspective shift today that it'll be life-changing for you. I actually believe it. If you take this metaphor and really apply it to your life, that your life will be forever changed. Certainly your life with the addict or alcoholic. So I live in Hurricane Central. I live in Florida, and every year it's hurricane season. It comes like clockwork. You can expect it. And every year, even though there may or may not be a hurricane, we get on high alert sometimes that there could be one, right? Maybe one's coming. We don't know. It's unpredictable. Could be, could not be, but we do know we live in hurricane season. And so that's always going to be a possibility no matter what. Maybe like the addict or alcoholic in your life, you know that addiction is part of their history. Some of you got blindsided, but you know now. That's why you're here. And you know that you don't know when relapse is coming, or if a relapse is coming, or if they're going to fall off the wagon or do whatever. But you do know that you live in addiction season, just like I live in hurricane season. So we have to know what to do. So every year, my husband, God love him, gets up on the high places of the house and puts up the shutters, and he's got his little light, and it goes well into the night because it's such a big job. We don't have hurricane windows. We have the things you put on, the old school stuff, right? And he goes up there and he's sweating his butt off, and he's doing all the things. And we go like everybody else and buy all the hurricane snacks, eat them on the first night. Neither here nor there, but we do the thing. We run to Costco and load up the cart and do all the stuff, and we get the generator rocking and the lamps and the things, and it's a giant pain in the ass. Why? Because we don't even know if it's going to happen or not, but it is our job and our responsibility and our duty to understand that we live in hurricane season, so we need to prepare. Now, if I hadn't prepared for the hurricane, and the hurricane comes and it obliterates my house, okay, and wrecks the things that could have been protected, or I don't have the food to sustain me through the hurricane, is it rational to get pissed off and blame the hurricane? It's your fault that I don't have the snacks. It's your fault that I didn't prepare the food. It's your fault that I'm going to forgive the hurricane for some things that I could have taken responsibility for to lessen the impact, certainly, or to prevent some of the impact from affecting me in certain areas. Like I'm going to secure my sustenance, right? So the same is true with addiction. If you have somebody in your life, what are you forgiving them for? Now, I'm not victim blaming. I really want you to understand where I'm coming from. I am victim empowering by telling you that yes, you can have some control over your life, even when you're with somebody who is completely out of control. And what's the determining factor there is you. How well you prepare for the hurricane. How well you batten down the hatches. How well you get the snacks. How well you get that generator rocking. Because when a hurricane comes, I'm in my cocoon. I'm in my safe place. And for you, as a loved one, it's your job to get those tools. What are those tools? How are you going to batten down your proverbial hatches in hurricane season? Well, you're going to get the tools you need to know what boundaries you need to set, how you need to set those boundaries, how to articulate those boundaries and confirm understanding, how to follow through. Can I get an amen on the boundaries? How to live your talk and walk and pull the trigger on your boundaries, especially when it's hard for you and hurtful and you're being blamed and made to feel like it's your fault they're using because you have these boundaries in the first place. I mean, how do I know all this? You're probably like, what? How does she know? Because not only did I live this, not only am I a client, no, not only did I live this in my own life, okay, I grew up in it, and I also overcame my own battle with binge drinking, but I worked inside of one of the world's leading drug and alcohol treatment centers for 7, almost 8 years, and in that environment, I've helped thousands of clients, and guess what else I've done? I've heard thousands of stories. I've heard hundreds and hundreds of families come through my family program that I created there with my husband and heard all the scenarios. And so this is the advice that I know is going to work for you. But it's one thing, like I'm telling you this high level example. If you want help knowing how to batten down your hatches, seek out that help. Okay. Seek it out with me. Go to lovecoachheidi.com. Let me help you, or seek out another qualified, not a semester of addiction training therapist, but literally like somebody who specializes in this. So that, like I do, so that you can have the real support that you need, somebody who really gets it and understands where you're coming from. So that's the first thing, is what are you forgiving? Now, if I'm going to say, oh, it's okay, I forgive you, should I sit around and say, oh, I've just got to forgive the hurricane? I've just got to forgive the hurricane. That's kind of a ridiculous thing, right? You're going to look at me, you're my friend. You're going to be like, Heidi, well, you don't have to forgive the hurricane. You just have to understand that that's a hurricane and you've got to prepare next time so it doesn't like wipe you out. And I'd be like, what? I just have to forgive. I just need to forgive. I can't forgive. Well, you can't forgive it because it did all this damage, but you can make sense of it. A hurricane does what a hurricane does, Heidi. That's probably what you'd say to me. You say, what's to forgive? A hurricane is a hurricane. And just like I'm going to tell you, an addict or an alcoholic is an addict or an alcoholic, and you don't have a Johnny or a Jimmy or a Beth or a Susie. You've got yourself an addict or an alcoholic, and that's how they behave, like a hurricane. So when you're forgiving, what are you forgiving? The expectation of the person you want them to be, or the reality of who they really are? You've got to learn that forgiveness sometimes, from my perspective, is like a self-righteous activity. It's like, I forgive you for not being my son. I forgive you for not being a good husband. I forgive you for not being a solid wife. Well, do you forgive a hurricane for being a hurricane? Now, I know this is a difficult concept to grasp. That's why I created the Rapid Detachment Method. This is the 7-step process to learn how to do that, to learn how to let people be who they are instead of who you want them to be for you. And when you do that, there's actually nothing to forgive. There's just boundaries to set up instead. Woo! What? Amen. I am speaking the gospel. I am singing the song. The sun's coming in here. Let's do something to shade it up. So that. Okay. All right. The sun is rising. Okay, step number 2 is live in the moment. So here's the deal. After the hurricane passes, what happens if you are stuck in the trauma of the hurricane? What happens? I'm not going to do anything, right? I'm going to be totally paralyzed. I'm not going to be able to have the stamina or the motivation or the hope to clean up my house. I'm just going to live in the damage. I might sit around if I'm still stuck in that trauma and of the past. The hurricane's gone, right? Several days have passed. The sun is out. That's normally what happens after a hurricane. The skies are blue. It's a new day. But if I'm still stuck, I wonder if I'm still stuck in the story of the hurricane or the trauma of the hurricane, what's going to happen is I'm going to be paralyzed. I'm going to be sitting in my house staring at the walls that are empty with the pictures off and that flew across the room. I'm going to be staring at the shrapnel. I'm going to be staring at all the stuff. I'm going to be looking around at the damage and just feeling completely and totally hopeless. And that's okay to do that for a while. Okay, so you can survey the damage, but eventually I gotta be in the present moment, and I gotta get to work. I've got to enjoy the sunshine and the fresh air and know that I can clean up. I can start again. But many of us, after the hurricane passes, are not in the moment. We're in the past trauma. And what does that mean? Well, you're just waiting around for the next hurricane. You're waiting around for things to go bad again. It's like, yeah, sure, it's sunny now, but wait till the other shoe drops, right? Wait till the bad thing happens. And so that's what happens with addiction. It's like maybe your loved one gets into recovery and they start doing really well, but then what happens? You can't enjoy that present moment because you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're waiting for a relapse. You're waiting for them to fuck up, basically. And then you can say to me, Heidi, well, yeah, exactly. Wouldn't you? Well, yeah, that's why I'm making this video, girl, boy. That's why I'm making it, because I understand how that is. And just a lot of the times that's easier said than done. You need help to learn how to live in the present moment, how to be in the now, not in the past trauma of what is going on. So that's step number 2. It's like step into the new day. And a lot of families don't get this, you know. If you're just clicking on here now, I'm holding this up because the sun is so bright and I'm washed out because the sun's in my face. Oh, how annoying when you're trying to make a video just for your friends and this happens, but it must go on because, listen, we can't help the sun. The sun is the sun. God damn you, sun. Why are you so bright? Why are you shining in my face? I've got to forgive the sun. I got to forgive the sun for shining in my face. Well, probably should have filmed it later in the day. Okay. Probably could have put up a little something else in the windows if I knew that sun was going to come in so that I could have done something differently, right? There's nothing to forgive. It just is what it is. But now I have to be in the present moment and go on with it. Okay. So a live demonstration of exactly what I'm talking about. All right. Exactly what I'm talking about. So be in the present moment. A lot of families at the family program, they would come in and they would be with their loved ones. And I do this virtually now. This family program is part of LYFE School, part of my program that you get. You get all this recorded program. I mean, it's unbelievable. And we can see how families are like, the loved one will be like, oh, I'm really excited about Christmas. They're just getting out before Christmas. And they're like, oh, I'm really excited about Christmas. And the loved one's like, yeah, the wife or the husband's like, yeah, I'm really excited about Christmas too. But you remember last Christmas. Last Christmas was a shit show. Hope it's better than last Christmas, because last Christmas we couldn't get any presents. Why? Because you took the credit card and you spent all the money and we couldn't have any toys and have anything. And you remember what happened. You didn't even come home, right? You were hungover that morning, and you didn't even get up till 1:00. And I had to open the presents with the kids by myself while you slept one off. And that's all true. But is that the present moment? Is that going to help me connect with my loved one? Is that going to help me heal? Look, recovery is a long road. It is a long road. I don't know when the next hurricane's coming, but I do know it's probably going to come. So I can do one of two things. I could just be miserable and in pain and remembering the last hurricane until the next one comes, or I can let the last hurricane be in the past, live in the present moment, and when the next one comes, and I'm not going to worry about it. I understand that's a skill. That's why I teach this stuff. I understand it's not easy. I know that. I said it's simple, but not easy. That's why we need help implementing this, because you can't just get it from a video. Like, even though you're going to get the concept from the video and the perspective can change your life, the implementation is what really changes your life ultimately, right? The perspective shift is like, woo, the light goes on, ding. But how many times has the light gone on? You've heard something, you're like, man, I got to remember that. Whoa, that's life-changing information. Holy shit. And you get the information and then you go, what was that? Well, check your phone for your notes, see if you wrote it down. So help implementing the information is really where it's at. Okay. And that leads me to step 3. So let's recap. Step number 1 is, what are you forgiving? A hurricane for being a hurricane? Why, do you need to learn this rapid detachment method so that you can let people be who they are instead of who you want them to be for you? Do you need to learn that so you can let it go? Step number 2 is to live in the present moment. When the hurricane passes, step out in the sunshine, enjoy that sober moment, because God only knows how long you have. Okay. And then the third thing is seek help for the damage. Now, this is going to sound really crazy, but I really want you to bear with me, okay? I really want you to bear with me. The hurricane created irreparable damage, okay? Let's say that even though I battened down the hatches, there's still some shit that was thrown around. The windows popped in, some crazy shit went down. Here's what I would do. Okay, let's just pretend I have a hotline to the hurricane. I'm going to call up the hurricane. I'm going to go, yes, hello, Irma. Listen, you left some damage behind. You need to come over here and clean this stuff up. You need to come over here, hurricane, and just take care of this, because I'm not going to live like this. It's your responsibility. You created this damage. You need to clean it up. How many of you do you believe that the hurricane is capable of coming in and cleaning up the damage it created? Then why in the hell do you believe that an addict or an alcoholic is capable of cleaning up the damage that they caused you? They can't. They caused the damage. They're not able to clean up the damage because they caused the damage. All right? Bing, boom, pow, okay? Crazy concept, but that's what we do all day long. So what do you do instead? You do not go to the source of the pain to heal the pain. You go outside of the pain to heal the pain. You call the cleanup crew, honey. You call the cleanup crew. You call the contractors. They come in and patch up those holes and do their gig, because that's what they do for work. That's what they do for a living. That's what they're good at. And so am I. That's what I do. I patch up the holes. I find the shrapnel and pick it out. I'm a psychological surgeon. I get inside of your brain and see where the emotional, psychological damage is, and we eradicate that. We heal from it. Okay, so those are the 3 simple steps to forgive an addict or an alcoholic. And really, it's just making sense of that hurricane and being able to deal in it in the future. I love you so much. If you found this video helpful, will you please forward it off to someone you love so that they can get the same awesome information, because lots of us are struggling in silence and we need the support. Or will you like it and leave a comment, because that helps us help more people as well. Go to lovecoachheidi.com for more information. Talk to you soon.